Hello, I am Alexander Kaleri from Expedition 26 crew. You are watching NASA TV.
Good morning, this is Mission Control Houston. Thank you for joining us for today's International Space Station update for Friday, December 10th. You're seeing a live view inside the Mission Control Center, specifically the International Space Station Flight Control Room at the Johnson Space Center in Houston, Texas. The Orbit 2 team is on duty here, supporting the onboard crew and monitoring the space station systems. All of the activities going smoothly. The team is being led by Flight Director Emily Nelson, who is just coming into view here in the center. She is the lead for the flight control team. To her right in this view is the two individuals supporting as the Capcom, or the capsule communicator. That's the flight control position that serves as the voice of the flight control team, relaying any instructions to the on-orbit crew. And serving in that role today is veteran astronaut Shannon Lucid, shown here in the pink, and Michael Engel, who represents the crew office. Again, that's just part of the team of the 20 different console positions here, supporting the real-time operations as well as reviewing plans and procedures for the upcoming days and weeks ahead. On orbit, the Expedition 26 crew is in the mid-afternoon of their crew day. They woke up at midnight Central Time and had a bit of personal time before starting their activities of the day. Usually those are kicked off with a daily planning conference, which is a chance to tag up with all of the supporting control centers, take a look at the day's activities ahead and discuss any details or updates to those activities, and then begin with their tasks. This morning, Scott Kelly, the commander for the crew, performed hardware changeouts for several of the onboard computers and performed both of his exercise sessions. Kelly's shown here at the far right. He and his crewmates are required to perform at least 2 hours of exercise each day, and that's a part of the protocol to help minimize bone and muscle loss experienced by long-duration spaceflight. His afternoon includes assembling the HTV hardware command panel in the Japanese Experiment Module, or JEM. That activity's gone smoothly, and he's now beginning a hour-long session gathering tools for upcoming work on the oxygen generating system. He'll end the day with an hour-and-a-half session to transfer trays from the Melfi 2 to the Melfi 3. The Melfi is a -80 lab degree freezer, which is used to store science experiment samples. He'll also have a tag up with the flight director following the evening DPC. His cosmonaut counterparts, Alexander Kaleri and Oleg Skripochka, are likewise working in the Russian segment, performing maintenance tasks and fan cleaning. Their afternoon focuses on work on the Russian Rusalka experiment and continued unloading of the Progress 40 cargo craft. This is a live view in the orbiting complex. Again, Commander Scott Kelly just beginning about an hour-long activity where he'll be gathering various tools and equipment that are going to be needed for some work on the oxygen generating system a couple weeks from now. It's about an hour-and-a-half worth of tool gathering that'll be needed before that activity begins, so they're having a head start on that today. Both of the cosmonauts likewise are also beginning their transfer work. They've been continuing that, or they've been carrying on with that for the last several days. They have about an hour dedicated to that in the afternoon. They'll each split from that activity to do their exercise sessions, each of them splitting, one to use the TVIS or the onboard treadmill and the second to use the resistive exercise device. While the activities continue on orbit, the upcoming crew members that will be joining this Expedition 26 crew are making their final preparations in Baikonur, Kazakhstan. This is a look at the additional Expedition 26 crew members. They'll be launching on the Soyuz 25 or TMA-20. This is a look at that crew. European Space Agency astronaut Paulo Nespoli at the far left, Dmitry Kondratyev, who will be the Expedition 26 flight engineer but the Soyuz commander, and NASA astronaut Katie Coleman, who also will be serving as a flight engineer. The three, again, arrived in Baikonur, specifically in Kazakhstan, last Friday, and after conducting their suited fit check of the Soyuz spacecraft over the weekend, they are now in their final preparations for the upcoming launch. We have some video of some of the activities they've been doing over the last day or so, and they'll will be aired later in this update hour, but we have some images as their Soyuz spacecraft was being processed and readied for the launch. This is the Soyuz spacecraft as it was still in the vertical position, and in this view being rotated as it's going to be prepared for the payload fairing that will be installed. This image now in the horizontal position before its encapsulation into its payload fairing that again occurred on December 9th. And this with the encapsulation in progress. Again, those are just some of the recent photos of the spacecraft as it's being processed and readied for its launch. 3 crew members will launch on Wednesday, December 15th. The launch is scheduled for 1:09 p.m. Central Time or 1:09 a.m. Baikonur Time. Our NASA TV coverage of that launch will occur at 12:15 Central Time. The docking will occur 2 days later. The docking is scheduled for 2:12 p.m. Central Time on Friday, December 17th. We will be airing that on NASA television beginning at 1:30 p.m. Central Time. Or rather, 2:12 p.m. Central Time. Again, all that coverage coming up of the Soyuz activities. Our NASA TV schedule can be found online as well at nasa.gov/NTV.
Moscow Station on 1. Go ahead, Alexander, on SG-1.
Значит, на всей папка «Русалка» 10-12-10.
Rusalka 10-12-10. Folder in OCA for ready for downlink. Copy, thank you.
This is a live view in the International Space Station where Commander Scott Kelly is working on his afternoon activities, specifically doing some tool gathering in preparation for some upcoming work. He's mostly out of view in this camera angle, but we do have some video that was sent down earlier today as he was working on the installation of the HDV command panel in the Japanese module. That video just from a couple of hours ago, but we'll replay it now.
On Space Ground 2 for the HCP setup.
Go ahead, Scott.
Yeah, I'm going to need some help with
step 1.3. I can't find that cable. I'm really not sure exactly what closeout you're talking about. I guess the bottom piece of MLI, so it would be on the overhead and aft portion of the module.
Check in. Scott, the location you were looking for is correct. If you can't find it, please find the cable coming from the ICS lag, which is shown in Figure 1.
So Scuba on Space to Ground 2, you would agree that that overhead 1 rack where there's a fire port, Alpha 1, underneath that fire port, and then MLI, that is where this cable should be located. I just want to make sure I'm looking in the right place.
The confirm, Scott, you are accessing the right place, correct place.
Okay, understand. I am looking in the right location, and there should be a cable maybe coiled underneath that white insulating material, the MLI, correct?
Scott, that's a firm, exam 3.
And understand that if there was a cable in there, it would not be connected to anything. It would be free on both ends. Is that correct?
Negative. One end is connected to the ICS lag.
Scuba, what would be helpful is to know the label of the connector that this number 2 cable would be connected to in the DMS-2 rack. What is the label on the rack? The rack connection.
Number 1. The label is P2, Papa 2, and it's a free end, and the other end is connected to the ICS lag. Would you take a look at the Figure 2 and Figure 1 for the cable configuration?
Copy.
Scott, before
Go.
lag rotation, would you take a look at the cable number 1, which is coming from the ICS lag located on the overhead 4? Then please verify that cable number 1 is connected to the cable number 2, as shown on the Figure 2. How copy?
Yeah, it is not connected. It's not connected to anything. As a matter of fact, with that end of the cable, I can't actually get it out from the standoff there, so I'll also have to rotate rack number 4, overhead 4, to get that end of the cable out. It doesn't fit rack and the standoff where the GLA is on the aft overhead standoff.
Number 1.
And Scuba, I'm not sure if you can see me here, but if you can, so the end of this cable is right here where my right hand is, and the label on the cable is HCP Power/Data Cable 2.8 meters P2, and it says P2 to P1 on it, and it has a Sharpie label. It says number 1, and there is no barcode on it.
Copy that, Scott.
And I've kind of tried to look along all these racks best I could behind them, and I don't see a cable there that looks like this cable.
Scott on 24 HCP cable. Regarding cable number 2, it might be stored in that 2.0 CTB serial number 1007. So could you
Okay, yeah,
check
copy.
that?
Yeah. Will do. I actually started looking in there to see if it's possible in there, but I'll continue to look. You guys are good. That's where it was.
Scott, that's great news.
So it looks like all these cables here are connected as they should be, and perhaps the only end is the last end that would go from P2 to P1.
Scott onto for HCP cable. Our understanding is the cable in your hand is cable 2347. And in this activity, we would like you to connect the cable number 5 and 6.
Okay, yeah, I'm looking at the procedure again to kind of figure out where I go from this point, and but understand 1 and 6, I think you said.
Scott onto for HCP cable. You mentioned that the cable number 1 and 6. But the correct cable number is number 5 and number 6. They will be between the cable number 7 and the number 4.
Okay, you're going to have to give me a chance to just look at the procedure here a little bit and study it. I'm really not, it's not perfect clear what I need to do, but let me read it a bit, and then if I have questions, I'll get back to you.
Copy that. And the figure 5 is very helpful to understand the cable configuration.
Scuba, let me try to give you a kind of a summary of what I'm holding here in my hands. I have the HCP, which is connected to cable number 7. All the other connections are mated until I get to cable number 2. So my understanding is if I made cable number 2 to cable number 1 and then stow this large loop of cables in the gem at the location that it says in the procedure, that satisfies what the intent of this procedure is. Is that true?
Scout N2, that's almost true. And would you verify that cables number 5 and 6 are between cable number 7 and number 4?
Okay, I'll read you all the cables I have in here. Let me see if I think you said, okay, let me just read you all the cables. Now I think I see your point. There are some cables missing in the middle of this. So, yeah, in this case, cable 7 is connected to cable 4, but you're saying that cables 5 and 6 need to go in between there.
That's affirmed. Cable number 5 and 6 are between cable number 4 and 7.
Okay, I follow you now. Thank you. And Scuba, space to ground 2, the cable.
Go ahead, Scout N2.
Yeah, for me to get access to cable number 1, I'm still going to have to rotate the overhead 4 rack. Otherwise, I can't get that end out without, forcing it, which I would prefer not to do.
Number 1, check-in. Scout N2 for ACP cable. Scott, could you rotate the lag as you need it, not to give the stress on the cable, number 1?
Yeah, I will have to rotate the ISIS rack to get that end of the cable out. I can try a little bit harder. I'm not going to put any force on it, but if you want me to continue to try to maybe see if there's an orientation that'll get it through that slot, I can do that. But it seems to me that the rack is going to need to be rotated a little bit to get that end of the cable out.
Scott, we copy that. Scott N2 for ACP cable. You have a go to rotate the lag. We have the 13 minutes LOS in 1 minute.
Copy. Thank you.
This is Mission Control Houston. That again was some video from earlier this morning as Commander Scott Kelly was working on gathering some equipment and parts that would be needed for the installation of the the command panel in the Japanese experiment module, pressurized module. Kelly is continuing with his afternoon activities, now working on some gathering of tools and equipment that will be needed for some work on the oxygen generating system in a couple of weeks. That'll continue for the next 30 minutes or so. He'll then have one additional task for the day, which is the swapping of trays from the Melfi 2 to the Melfi 3 freezer. Both of those are deep cold freezers that are used to store science and experiment samples. That'll also take about an hour, and then that'll pretty much wrap up his afternoon activities. He'll join his cosmonaut counterparts for an end-of-day daily planning conference and also a crew tag-up with the flight director. That'll wrap up their day as far as official work. They'll have some personal time for their evening meal and scheduled for crew sleep at 3:30 p.m. Central Time. This is a live view in the space station flight control room where the team is continuing to review the plans and procedures and support the crew as needed as they're working on their activities. some of the team members here taking a quick break during the gap in the live data link up to the space station, but otherwise everything going smoothly, and they're continuing to monitor the systems. Overnight, the team was informed of an object that would be in the vicinity of the space station over the weekend. The object was part of an Atlas 2A Centaur rocket body that was launched on October 20th in 1998. The team here in Mission Control has been tracking that object overnight and currently is not expecting it to be an issue or requiring any altitude adjustment by the space station, but they'll continue to monitor that object throughout the day. Over the weekend, the crew will have a routine weekend planned with mostly just a few light-duty activities. Weekends for the astronauts is similar to many of us on Earth, where they have some general housekeeping tasks and otherwise some personal time for tag-up with friends and family. Next week, they'll turn their focus to the arrival of the their remainder of their crew, the 3 crew members that'll be launching on the Soyuz spacecraft next week. Dmitry Kondratyev, who will serve as the commander of that Soyuz spacecraft, European Space Agency astronaut Paulo Nespoli, and astronaut Katie Coleman. This is a look at those 3 crew members, again, who are now in Baikonur in Kazakhstan, making their final preparations. They arrived there last week at the Baikonur Cosmodrome and conducted a suit fit check of their Soyuz TMA-20 spacecraft over the weekend. They're now in the final preparations for their launch, which is planned for next week on Wednesday, December 15th. That launch planned for 1:09 p.m. Central Time. And they will dock to the space station 2 days later on Friday, December 17th at 2:12 p.m. Central Time. All of that will be covered on NASA television, and you can find the latest times and NASA coverage plans on our website at www.nasa.gov/NTV. As the 3 crew members have been preparing for their mission, they've also participated in a number of traditional activities. Some of those have been sent via video over to the Johnson Space Center, and we have some of that to play for you now. This is Mission Control Houston.
No. Trade it. Oh, good. That's funny.
Можно для видео? Помашите, пожалуйста.
А мы еще и здесь есть. Потом куда он залезет, он нас закинет.
Стекло, смотрите, Андрей.
Стекло, вот это.
Есть. Сейчас примет заново.
Может, зараз нет. Кислород у них уже там уже все направлено. Он не скафандр, блин, у него необычный длинный рост. За это рубище не вышло.
Примем. Ой, чуть-чуть там. Сейчас освобожу.
Система спутников «Артем» покрывает полностью земную поверхность, 66 спутников на 11 неделях документации. Вот. И вы ею пользоваться на борту не будете. Питание, видимо, и включаете питание и 2 раза выключаете, вы выходите. Показаны наличие спутников и уровни сигнала.
These the coordinates of light. Pretty soon we'll be in the same coordinates, but several hundred kilometers. It'll be just fine. What do you think of your roommates, Paula?
It's okay. You know, good climate anyway.
Дима, давай вопросы, какие замечания, пожелания?
So, Dima, do you have any questions, wishes, comments? We did the fit check. We checked the equipment. No comments. The suits fit very well. The vehicle is good too. Everything's fine.
А тебе небольшой скафандр?
Catherine, what about your suit? My suit is excellent. Just right for me. So everything is good. Thank you.
Ребят, давайте сначала я отработаю, потом вы. Так, пожалуйста, внимание.
То есть работа начинается с момента 12. Даже так, до этого вы, наверное, будете стараться складывать грузы, за исключением чайничек, стыковку выдаете цвета, на стыковку по указанию. Включили, указание не то есть мы ну вот, то есть вы не принимаете это как такое жесткое руководство, но это штатная работа, вот так обычно происходит. Если какие-то есть отклонения, то не показывают.
Учение Г3 не показывает.
Не, подожди.
Diversi modi di stimolare, la testa lateralmente e la testa muovendo il corpo fuori. Yes, sometimes towards the end of the exercise, I think it's relaxing, so you can fall asleep, yes.
What do you think about this training?
This one? Well, it's a way to stimulate the sensors, pressure sensors that are here, located here, and they feel that you get a lot of blood in your head. And so by continuously changing the positions, we simulate when we go into space at the beginning.
And we call him Hobbs. He is a little tiger that is the companion of a little boy, and the boy and the tiger have adventures together. And the boy says that the tiger has all of the ideas that get him in trouble. But the boy never has the bad ideas, only the tiger. So I also bring the tiger with me so that he can give us some ideas of how to have a little more fun on our journey. But the tiger, this tiger, does not go to space. It's because we have to pack our things for space very long in advance. And so a little tiger just like this one is already on board the station. So this one I will give to my son before I launch.
Thank you.
Wait, don't do that to my tiger.
I like the little tiger for appetizer. Leave the difficult shots to Dima. Look at this. This is insane. Close.
To look.
Yeah, there is a ball there.
It's not so easy though. And these guys just move on, correct? Do that?
No.
No.
Well, yes, you can.
No, why not?
You can, but...
Sure.
How's the queen move?
Yeah. As long as you have clear
So
face,
it's
for
good to be
example,
the queen.
all of this or that.
Absolutely.
Like with the white.
Like this?
Oh, that's bad.
Because if you do that, then it takes you. Yeah.
Okay.
Gets you, right?
Or this one up here. This one here. Okay.
Right. Right. Yeah. Oh, you can see it, but it's still same.
А возможно на силовой?
Сейчас продолжим. Можно.
Идем дальше на конец или куда? Народ.
Which one?
All of them.
On the left?
At the
One of the guys
Yes,
said,
let's go there.
this is the river of Alexander the Great.
Really?
Yes. The river kind of gets long.
Every time you're running, not walking, I'd like you to walk. To enjoy it, being out.
Enjoy it while you can. Get all the fresh air you can. Sue?
Yeah, we will.
Or you want the backup to help?
Hey, Дим.
Чем тебе не понравился?
Max, looks like you know what you're doing.
Один взгляд.
Сейчас, я много тебе.
Okay, what's up?
what do you think about this traditional?
Well, it's a very good tradition because the tree symbolizes something that grows into the future. You plant a little tree or little seed, and suddenly you have a big tree in the future. This also goes for our kids. We think we are going to plant a lot of trees that will grow into young generation. And also, it's good because, you know, they symbolize nature and they clean the atmosphere where we live. So it's a good tradition.
Thank you.
You are watching some video of the upcoming crew members that will be joining the On-Orbit Expedition 26 crew. That video including Dmitry Kondratyev, Paulo Nespoli of the European Space Agency, shown on the far left, and astronaut Katie Coleman, shown at the far right. The three now in Baikonur, Kazakhstan, making their final preparations for their upcoming launch next week. The launch activities will be covered on NASA television. That will be beginning on Wednesday, December 15th at 12:15 p.m. Central Time. The launch is scheduled at 1:09 p.m. Central Time, 1:09 a.m. Baikonur Time. Docking following 2 days later. Our NASA TV coverage for docking beginning at 1:30 p.m. Central Time, and the docking scheduled at 2:12 p.m. Central Time. On orbit, the Expedition 26 crew members are in the tail end of their afternoon activities. All of that activity going smoothly. This is a view of Commander Scott Kelly as he's wrapping up some tasks, gathering tools for some upcoming work on the oxygen generating system. All of his activities have been going smoothly throughout the day, and in fact he's been running a little bit ahead. He's got one additional task, which will be the swapping or relocation of trays out of the Melfi 2 freezer into the Melfi 3 freezer. The Melfi is the minus 80 lab freezer, which is a deep freezing facility that helps to preserve specimens from experiments and science work that are usually brought down to Earth later for scientists and research use. That'll take him about an hour and wrap up his day's activities. He'll join his cosmonaut counterparts for a evening daily planning conference, a chance to tag up with the ground control teams after their work, and he's also going to have a weekly tag up with the flight director. All three of the crew members will participate in that, and then they'll have their off-duty time before retiring for the evening. Their crew sleep scheduled for 3:30 p.m. Central Time. The International Space Station vehicle itself continuing to perform well, making its way over the southern Atlantic Ocean on an easterly track. The vehicle is currently traveling at an altitude of 365 kilometers. the equivalent of 198 nautical miles overhead. The craft travels 17,500 miles per hour, orbiting the Earth once every 90 minutes. As you've seen on board, Scott Kelly continuing to work on some tool gathering. His cosmonaut counterparts continuing their work in the Russian segment. They've been working on some maintenance tasks, as well as some continued unloading of the 40P cargo craft that brought up several thousand pounds of supplies and equipment. Be continuing with that, and also exercise sessions for the rest of their afternoon. This is a look in the Space Station Flight Control room where the team is continuing to work. This is the Orbit 2 team, which is on duty. They're in the early part of their shift. They're the second of 3 shifts that support the space station and its crew 365 days a year. The team is being led by Flight Director Emily Nelson, who is shown in this view in the long sleeve black. And to her right is the Capcom position, which is usually supported by astronauts or crew office representatives. In this case, both veteran astronaut Shannon Lucid in the pink and Mike Engel, who is a representative of the crew office, are serving in that role. And they serve as the voice of the flight control team if needed to talk with the crew through any procedures and activities. With that, we'll wrap up today's International Space Station update. Coming up next on NASA Television will be the NASA video file, which will include more continued footage of the remainder of the Expedition 26 crew members now in Baikonur, Kazakhstan, making preparations for their launch next week. This is Mission Control Houston.